Well, welcome friends once again to First Baptist Church Grand Cayman. Many of you have been following us on our website or via YouTube, but from today, for the first time, these broadcasts are also being made available through podcast. And the great news of that is that if you go to First Baptist Church Grand Cayman via podcast, you'll be able to discover not only going forward our daily devotionals, but a whole pile of other sermon materials that have been preached over the last few months and are available to you also. Now, we've been pursuing our way through the book of Numbers, trying to take a chapter or so at a go, and today we're in chapter 8. A little while ago, back in the UK, I was hosting a conference when a rather cheeky question was asked of one of the older participants about when the participant intended to retire. They responded by saying that the Bible has no theology of retirement, but it does have a theology of old age. And then cheekily asked me if I'd appreciate further details. Well, I don't know about you, but I love that kind of banter. And so I replied, I certainly would appreciate details when I was old, as my friend who was offering me to be able to take up his advice. Intriguingly, however, at the end of Numbers 8, we are given directions for the retirement of Levites at the age of 50. Wow! Some of us in the workplace are well past our sell-by date already then, right? Earlier in Numbers, we've been told that the Levites were to serve from the age of 30 to 50. Have a good read through of chapter 4. Why these two ages? Well, at a very practical level, the work of the tabernacle was physically demanding. The men involved had to be physically fit and robust for erecting, dismantling, and then transporting the tabernacle in the wilderness. So, there's a recognition here that there are some prime times in our lives for major input and work. So the rule for the Levites here is not a one-size-fits-all, either in the Bible or today, of course. After all, Moses and his brother Aaron were into their 80s by the time these instructions were given. Nevertheless, there are key periods in our lives for maximum usefulness. And for these ancient Levites, that was the ages of 30 to 50. However, there are a couple of other things to note from this intriguing passage. For example, although the lower age limit of chapter 4 was 30, here we are told in verse 24 of Numbers 8 that the age was 25. How come the discrepancy? Well, the rabbis and others, correctly I think, speculated that the 5-year difference was explicable along these lines. It was the younger Levites' 5-year apprenticeship period. They were indentured, as it were, for the work ahead. As someone who spent over 20 years involved in the training of men and women for ministry within the church and beyond, and would always encourage those entering, say, pastoral ministry to spend some time as an apprentice before taking on the full responsibility of being the sole pastor or the senior minister, then these Levites, before the whole weight of responsibility was laid on their younger shoulders, also had this form of apprenticeship that I so desired for so many of my students. Likewise, I think of the checks and balances that are imposed on any young medical graduate. They may have been involved in many years of training, but actually, this is where the race really begins, when they enter practice. There is still so much to learn, and so there are consultants around and professors and folk who help them in their apprenticeship-type years to be fully equipped to be excellent doctors. There's one other thing that I think we could take away today. So were the 50-year-old Levites useless and put out to grass, as it were? Hardly. Verse 26 talks of their assisting their brothers, which actually means that they had responsibility not so much of carrying heavy loads and conducting sacrificial duties, but guarding the sacred tabernacle as wiser, older heads. There's a challenge here for some of us older ones. It's sad to see folk who will not retire from what they've been good at and hold on sometimes for far too long, perhaps undoing the good they did. Could that be you? And no one has the heart to tell you? You see, there's always something for us to do if we belong to the Lord. When one door shuts, another opens. There's a time to finish our work and assume other duties, health permitting. And never forget the one who finished his work, aged 33, there on the cross, and yet continues his work as our great high priest above, and whose ear and heart are always open and receptive to the cry of his people. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you can tune in tomorrow. God bless you.